The last stand kicks off on the outskirts of Las Vegas, where we see a police officer casually enjoying a donut. Talk about a classic cliché. Suddenly, a car zooms by so fast it almost shatters the windows, speeding toward the border at a whopping 200 miles per hour. The officer quickly contacts dispatch, asking them to inform the FAA about a jet fighter flying dangerously low with its lights off. Now let's meet our main man, Sheriff Ray Owens. Played by none other than the Terminator himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Ray has been keeping the peace in Somerton County for years. He's not really into big crowds, preferring to maintain order behind the scenes, like when he chooses to skip the town's football game. One day, while at a diner, Ray overhears Burrell and Ponytail, a pair of truckers who make their living transporting auto parts, chatting about a mysterious guy. Intrigued, Ray decides to keep an eye on their activities, sensing something is shifty. Meanwhile, we meet our three stooges, officers Jerry and Mike, along with Lewis, who's a bit unusual. Jerry gets excited to try out a new gun, but he totally underestimates the recoil. As a result, the gun smacks him right in the nose, breaking it. Jerry starts twirling the gun around, and the other two quickly grab it from him. Just then, Ray shows up, clearly annoyed that two of his officers are goofing off instead of working. Determined to dig up some dirt on Burrell and Ponytail, Ray orders his team to find any information they can. That's when he chats with Lewis, who reveals that his cottage is actually the Dinkum Firearm and Historic Weapons Museum. Lewis dreams of becoming a deputy like Jerry and Mike. Seeing the gun in question, Ray decides to give it a try, firing off a shot as the scene cuts to the two truck drivers coming to a halt. Turns out Ray's instincts are spot on. Burrell is in charge of a whole bunch of armed mercenaries. He's informed that the location is secure, but they're having some trouble with a stubborn farmer. Burrell decides to use his people skills to handle the situation. He approaches the cranky old man, who wants nothing to do with Burrell or his so-called movie set. The farmer fires a warning shot from his shotgun and tells Burrell to leave. Burrell agrees, but just as he turns around, the farmer is shot dead. Back at the police station, we meet Sarah and Frank, an army vet who's pals with the officers but can't seem to stay out of trouble. There's an awkward hug between Jerry and Frank, who's locked up in a cell. Mike walks in and explains that Ray ordered Frank to be detained for the weekend, even though they're all friends. That same night, Jerry confides in Ray, sharing his longing for action and adventure. He even asks Ray to help him land a job in LA. Little does he know, Ray himself has quite the history. Before becoming sheriff in Somerton County, Ray served in a narcotics division in Los Angeles, where he was right in the thick of things with bullets flying all around. Understanding Bailey's desire to leave, Ray agrees to help transfer him to another division. Things start to take off as we switch scenes to an FBI black site, where Agent John and his partner are busy with other FBI officials, planning the transport of Gabriel Cortez, a notorious cartel boss who's second only to Pablo Escobar in his brutality. Cortez is on death row and needs to be moved to a federal prison. The mission is top secret, with agents getting notified just moments before to ensure Cortez has no chance of escaping. But things take a wild turn during Cortez's transport. A crane with a massive magnet lifts the vehicle carrying Cortez, who then kills the officer sitting next to him. One of his mercenaries, perched on top of the van, takes out the driver and fires cover shots, trying to move the vehicle onto a rooftop. The FBI agents scramble, rushing into the hotel to intercept them. As the van is lowered and the doors are blown open, the mercenaries set up zip lines to another rooftop. The FBI agents finally catch up, only to find Cortez missing. They notice the zip lines and spot someone they think is Cortez making a run for it. But it's all just a diversion. The man they're chasing is just a decoy in a prison suit, while the real Cortez slips into a suit and heads into an alley. There, he encounters two agents and kills one of them. John runs into the alley to find his dead officer, and Ellen is missing along with Cortez. Over at the headquarters, John enters a room where they've captured 11 people, all pretending to be Cortez. As he questions them, they come up with excuses like wearing the same jersey as their favorite soccer team. Meanwhile, back in Somerton, Ray gets a call from Christy, who tells him that the farmer who supplies her milk hasn't shown up today, and he hasn't missed a day in 20 years. Cortez and his crew ditch their white sedan, taking Ellen hostage in the process. The cartel boss hops into a sleek gray Corvette we saw earlier in the movie. With McKay's death weighing heavily on him, John is pulling out all the stops to track down Cortez, even going as far as shutting down every private and commercial landing strip within a 100-mile radius. The police are scrambling to keep up with Cortez, but his 1,000-horsepower Corvette and incredible driving skills leave them in the dust as he effortlessly speeds past every checkpoint. As Cortez speeds down the highway at breakneck speeds, the cops struggle to keep up. He calls John using Ellen's phone, threatening to kill his federal hostage who's handcuffed in the car. The police set up a roadblock, but they're in for a surprise when two armored vehicles roll up, and gunmen emerge, firing automatic weapons and taking out the officers. A truck follows, clearing the road and allowing Cortez to speed through the blockade unscathed. Meanwhile, back in Somerton County, Ray sends Jerry and Sarah to check on the farmer after getting a call from Christy. They discover the farmer has been murdered. Ray arrives at the scene and, thanks to his experience with the FBI, quickly figures out that the farmer was killed by a sniper outside and then dragged inside. Ray gets a call from Agent John, who updates him on the situation and assures him that there's no way for Cortez to cross from Somerton to Mexico, but just to be safe, Ray should stay prepared. However, Jerry and Sarah notice car tracks and decide to follow them, leading them to a canyon where they unexpectedly encounter the mercenaries. Unaware of the danger, Jerry approaches them, only to be met with a hail of bullets. Sarah quickly takes cover, but the mercenaries switch off the lights and activate their night vision goggles. They unleash a barrage of gunfire on the cop car. Just in the nick of time, Ray comes to the rescue, taking out two mercenaries. He positions his car so Sarah and Jerry can hop in, and they speed off just as a rocket launcher barely misses them, hitting the cop car instead. Ray pulls up to an ambulance, but Jerry's injuries are severe. Tragically, he succumbs to his wounds and passes away. Sarah, Ray, and Mike are heartbroken. They inform Frank about the devastating loss of their friend. He and Sarah sit, mourning Jerry's death. Cortez pulls out his phone and it turns out that Ellen is corrupt as he shows her the $3 million he promised her for assisting him in escaping. He then does some sick-ass maneuvers and manages to get out of helicopter range, making John pissed off. It seems that Cortez and his crew plan to build a bridge across the canyon, which is very narrow, trying to get into Mexico. Ray calls John and explains the situation, and John thinks that Ray is crazy and doesn't believe him. But in case he sends some SWAT which will arrive at Somerton but will arrive late to capture Cortez. Meanwhile, John looks at the replay of Ellen being kidnapped and tells his men to quietly search each person's financials that knew about the operation as he believes it was an inside job. Ray, heartbroken by the death of Jerry, knows he needs more men, and so he enlists the help of Frank, and then he makes his way to Lewis and also enlists him as a deputy. They know there is going to be a war zone in a short amount of time, and so they all lock and load ready for the fight. John and his right-hand man board a plane to Somerton to investigate Ray's claims. Meanwhile, Ray and his team create a blockade of vehicles to prevent Cortez from crossing their town. They order everyone in the town to stay indoors for their safety. John gains access to a satellite feed of Somerton and discovers that there is a bridge being constructed across the canyon. Cortez's men also prepare for the battle ahead, arming themselves to the teeth. Burrell and his crew reach the town and see the blockade. They stand in a line as Sarah is on the rooftop and Mike is the decoy right in the middle. Christy just walks outside and Mike grabs her and hides behind the car as they are met with gunfire. A rocket is then shot which blows up the car, but Mike played it smart and comes out firing his Tommy gun and forcing the assailants to find cover. He is then shot in the shoulder by a sniper, and that sniper is then shot dead by Sarah, who gets fired at from the ground. A bus then comes flying into the scene, and as it comes to a halt, Ray and Lewis open the back door and start firing a sentry turret, killing at least 5 mercenaries. Frank blocks the road with the bus and they get pinned down. Ray manages to get into the diner and starts climbing the stairs. At the bus, Lewis is getting shot at from all directions, and as a mercenary runs into the house that Sarah is on, Frank runs to save her. Ray takes out the assailant on the roof, as Frank also takes out his. At the bus, Lewis thinks he is a Roman soldier as is defending bullets with his shield, but as he drops his gun he is forced to use his flare gun and shoots it, making the man run away and getting blown to bits. Even Burrell couldn't believe what he just saw. Lewis comes off the bus and Burrell shoots him in the back. Ray and Burrell then have a shootout as Burrell sneaks his way on the bus and moves it. Ray gets a good shot hitting his ear, and the disorientated Burrell is then killed. Ray tries to move the bus, but it won't move. Just then Cortez arrives in his scratched-up Corvette, and Ray tries to shoot him, but he manages to get past them. Ray takes the mayor's car as Cortez boots Ellen out of his car. Ray gives him a chase to the cornfield, and as they play dodgem cars for a good 10 minutes, the Corvette gets thrashed. Cortez makes his way on foot to the bridge and finds Ray standing there waiting for him. He calls his personal banker and offers Ray $5 million to let him cross, but he throws him handcuffs instead, which leads to a fight. Ray quickly gets the upper hand, but I guess Cortez watches some UFC as he starts doing some crazy jiu-jitsu. Ray uses the illegal eye poke technique and body slams Cortez on the bridge. As Ray thinks the fight is finished, he starts dragging him but gets stabbed in the leg and cops a few punches. He quickly turns it around and stabs Cortez back and smacks him to the ground. Cortez looks at the Mexico border looking how close he was. The FBI finally arrive and see a humiliated Cortez walking as Ray drives his car. He hands him over to the FBI, and John, who had already pulled out Ellen's finances, knew about the $3 million and arrested Ellen for betraying the Bureau. Mike and Lewis are both alive and are being taken to the hospital. The last stand ends with John telling Ray he underestimated him and is amazed at how he managed to take care of the most dangerous cartel leader with just a few men. Thank you for watching. A like and subscribe goes a long way, and I'll see you on the next one.